Okay, so we're going to do a quick review for the test tomorrow. So 100 questions, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So addition, we need to know addition algorithms. So for the same sign, we know when it's positive plus positive, we add the two numbers and keep the value of the sign, which is positive. When it's a negative plus a negative, we add the absolute value of the two numbers and we keep the sign, which would be negative. We know that when we have different signs, we find the difference of the two numbers, right? So find the difference first, and then keep the sign that goes with the number that has the largest absolute value. So we'll say keep the largest sign. So again, that's the sign on the number with the greatest absolute value. All right, so some examples. 5 plus 2, same sign, so we add them, keep the positive sign. Negative 7 plus negative 3, same sign, so we add them, keep the negative sign. Negative 11 plus 3, different signs. So we find the difference, which is 8. This has a larger value than this, so negative. 7 plus 5, find the difference, which is 2. If we look at the whole absolute value, right, absolute value of this is 7, absolute value of this is 5, so we keep the greater sign, which is positive. All right, moving on, subtraction. We figured out a bunch of subtraction algorithms, but we also talked about how it's a lot faster to do this same, change, change, right? That's what our SCC stands for. So you could do your algorithms, or you could do the same, change, change method, which is keep the first sign the same, that's our S, change the middle sign, and change the last sign. Let's do some examples. So 5 minus 3, we know that's just 2. If we wanted to, same, change, change, so keep that the same, change that, again, we still get 2. In this case, this is probably a lot more simple. All right, negative 3 minus negative 9. If we do our same, change, change method, keep that the same, change that, change that. So now we have negative 3 plus 9, which is just 6. We know that from our addition algorithms, right? So they are different signs, so we find the difference, which is 6, and we keep the sign on the 9. All right, let's look at 4 minus negative 7. So same, change, change. Oops, so it's just 4 plus 7, which is 11. All right, negative 3 minus negative 9, again, same, change, change. And from our addition algorithms, we know that that is negative 12. All right, this one here, we have 3 values. We know by the order of operations, you just go left to right. So 6 minus 3, we know is 3. We don't have the same change that. 3 minus 5, we either know that that's negative 2, or we same change it to get 3 minus 5 equals 3 plus negative 5 equals negative 2. Whatever works for you. All right, lastly, negative 5 plus 2 minus 3. So negative 5 plus 2, we know we find the difference, which is 3, and keep the larger sign, so it's negative. So now we just have negative 3 minus 3, or negative 3 plus negative 3 equals negative 6. All right. So moving on to multiplication. So we talked about these algorithms a good bit. Let's refresh them. So a positive times a positive is always a positive. A positive times a negative is a negative. A negative times a positive is a negative. And a negative times a negative is a positive. So you just need to know that. Let's do some examples. 12 times 6, positive times a positive. We know that's 72. Positive. If you don't know that, feel free to write out your multiplication, right? So 6 times 2 is 12. Put the 1 up top. Multiply 6 times 1, add the 1, 72. So if you're not sure of something, check it, because if not, you'll get it wrong. If you don't know, okay. Let's look at this one. 3 times -4, positive times a negative. So we know that's going to be negative, and we know that 3 times 4 is 12. And again, -8 times 7 is a positive times a negative, so we know it's going to be negative. And we know that 8 times 7 is 56. So we get -56. All right, this one, negative times a negative. Well, right away, I can tell you that's going to be positive. 9 times 7 is 63. All right, this one here. 2 different ways to do this. We can do -2 times -2 is positive 4. And then positive 4 times -2 is -8. Or we know a negative odd times will be negative. So we're multiplying -2 3 times, so there's an odd amount. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. Like we said, odd times it'll be negative. All right, this one here, -3 times 3 times -3. Again, 2 ways. -3 times 3 is a negative times a positive, so that'll be -9. We multiply that by a -3 to get positive 27. Or we can see that there's 1, 2 negatives, which is an even amount, and we know that we multiply an even amount of negatives, it'll be positives. Thus, we can just do 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, and we know that is positive. And finally, we have division. So we talked about division having the same algorithms as multiplication. Why? Oh, let's think of it as fractions. If I'm doing 4 divided by 1/2, that's the same as 4 times 2/1, right? So it makes sense that we use the algorithms from multiplication for division. So not that there's any fractions on your test, but just so you remember that division is the same algorithms as multiplication. Okay, so positive divided by a positive is positive. Positive divided by a negative, negative. Negative divided by a positive, negative. And lastly, negative divided by negative is positive. All right, some examples. 100 divided by 5. We know that that is 20, and it's a positive because it's positive divided by positive. All right, so we have a negative divided by a positive. So if we wanted to find the answer first, we could, 2. Then we know by our algorithms that it's a negative. Again, 45 divided by 9. We know it's going to be 5, and we know it's going to be negative because it's a positive divided by a negative. And finally, -30 divided by -5. We know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So positive 6. So that's pretty much all you need to know for your quiz tomorrow. Know all your algorithms. Make sure you check your work. Don't make simple mistakes. And good luck. Any questions, just shoot me an email.